Lunch Break Live, and the Las Vegas Raiders have officially hired head coach Pete Carroll. Now, we were talking about this yesterday, Lunch Break Live yesterday, and there was a whole debate after, Spytech was official, and it's like, what are we going to do at head coach? And really, it kind of felt like the writing was on the wall, right? Like last year, when it came to, Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce possibly being the head coach, general manager combination, Mark Davis said specifically that he did not want to have a rookie GM and a rookie head coach pairing. So when we got the official news of John Spytek being our new general manager, he is a rookie GM. Now, he has a lot of experience in the NFL, and assistant GM and director of player personnel, stuff like that, but he has never been a GM himself. And so that kind of put the writing on the wall that the Raiders were going to want to hire an experienced head coach. And Pete Carroll is that experienced head coach. So where do I feel about this hiring? Honestly, I got to say that I feel pretty solid about it. I liked Todd Monken. I thought maybe there's a possibility that Liam Cohen might not take the offensive coordinator position at the Bucks and go ahead and come to be a head coach, but it looks like he's going to go do that with the Jaguars. So overall, off of what was left on the table, there was Spags, there was Todd Monken, and really, out of who we had requested interviews with and had interviewed, Pete Carroll was definitely, I'm going to call it the safe choice, right? Pete Carroll is the safe choice at head coach, and that's kind of a no-brainer to me, right? He's a winning head coach. He turned around the USC. He went from NFL down to USC, turned that around. I think it was like 9 great seasons over there. And then he went to the Seahawks, right? And he had a great success over there with the Seahawks. Things went really good for him over there. And for him to come over to the Raiders, man, I got to be happy about it, right? He's the guy that has the most experience. Yeah, he's old. And I previously said, on a live that, at 73 years old, we stopped letting my grandma drive herself, right? But if you look at like a lot of what's going on with his aging process, he's a young 73-year-old, right? I got to give him that. And he's, one of the things that really sticks out to me about this signing is that we know right off the bat that it's a 3-year contract with a 4th-year option, right? And that's really different than what's been happening in the past. James Firpo with the Raiders was good, man. Like Josh McDaniels came in and there was all these question marks around his contract. What's his contract? What is it? What is it? And like they didn't want to let us know. And then they hired Antonio Pierce and it's like, what's his contract? And they didn't want to let us know. They came straight out the gate and they said, Pete Carroll, 3 years, boom, signed on the dotted line. There's not all these questions on, is he going to pull Cliff Kingsbury? Is he also like Cliff Kingsbury and Ben Johnson using us as a negotiation piece? What's going on here? And it's very clear, boom, Pete Carroll's in the building, right? And if you look at why would they bring in Pete Carroll, right? Not just because he's like the best option that's left, right? Because Ben Johnson was option number 1. That fell through. So going with Pete Carroll is the safe signing. And it being a safe signing is because Pete Carroll, he's a good head coach. He's good at building culture. And I think that Antonio Pierce helped get the culture out of the dumps of what was Josh McDaniels and helped turn that thing around into the right direction. But Pete Carroll is going to add some stability. Now, this 3-year contract, I got to tell you guys that I think that no matter how well or bad he does, I think that we're going to have Pete Carroll for 3 years. I think that worst case scenario is halfway through the 3rd season is when we end up cutting him. If it's horrible, right? Which I don't think it will be. Because Pete Carroll's a winner, man. He really is. He's good at putting the staff together. He knows what to do. He doesn't have to, ask for guidance. Like, look, I liked Antonio Pierce, right? I definitely liked AP, but the problem that I saw with AP is that as an interim, he followed his gut, he followed his instincts, and he went out there and he killed it, right? And then when he actually officially got the head coaching position, he second guessed himself. And he second guessed himself so much that he listened to other people. He even said in his final presser that, like, what he did wrong was he didn't follow his gut, right? And that led to Gardner Minshew being our starter. And we saw what a shit show that turned out to be. So, I mean, it makes sense to me that, we're going to go with a head coach that he knows what he's doing, right? And I'm happy about that. I'm very happy about that because we probably have not had such a stable head coach hiring. I mean, John Gruden was one thing, but it was the John Gruden 2.0, right? And besides that, I can't remember the last time that I just kind of felt like kind of at ease, right? Kind of at ease that, like, I'm confident that this coach is going to send us in the right direction. Now, if we turn this bus around, right, and start having some winning seasons, what I believe is going to happen is we might have Pete Carroll for 3 or 4 years, and they're going to kind of use him to groom the next guy down the line because he's going to be 74 in September, and I don't see him coaching into his 80s. He's already going to be the oldest NFL head coach of all time, right? It's going to be what it's going to be. But I have a lot of faith in it. Now, there's a whole lot of speculation going around right now about what are they going to do at quarterback. Because as soon as Pete Carroll signed, all the rumor mill started hitting Russell Wilson. Ian Rappaport posted Russell Wilson wanted to go to Las Vegas last year, right? And could we possibly see a Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll reunion? And I think that there's a high possibility of that. If that's what happens, I'm not going to be mad. But I see some speculation happening of that we're going to draft Shedeur Sanders and then we're going to get Russell Wilson. And I got to tell you guys that I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that we're going to have one of two of those scenarios. It's either going to be Russell Wilson or it's going to be Shedeur Sanders, right? Because Russell Wilson is not going to sign a deal. And mind you, they might tell him one thing and then do another, right? But I don't think that Russell Wilson is going to sign a deal to be the bridge quarterback for 1 year. That way, Shedeur Sanders can sit for a year because Tom Brady's talked about it. Tom Brady's been the mentor. And then what? And then what's he going to sign? A 2-year deal? And then he sits behind, he starts year 1. Shedeur Sanders sits behind him, and then year 2 they put in Shedeur Sanders and have Russell Wilson as the backup to help continue teaching him. I don't think that that's going to be the deal. Russell Wilson is 35 years old, and he's going to want to secure at least a 3 or 4 year deal. And Russell Wilson, he wants to be a starter if he sticks around in the league, right? I don't see it going any other way. James Furpo said, I don't want Wilson unless it's vet minimum. And Russell Wilson's not going to go for a vet minimum. He played very well over there with the Steelers, and the end of the season kind of went south, but he's going to want to get paid. Alexis Mendoza, curious to see who he brings in as coordinators. And that's going to be a big one, right? And I think that that's going to play a role in who we end up rolling forward with as quarterback. Now, we're going to get to see a lot of what happens with John Spytek and Tom Brady, because I think another piece of bringing Pete Carroll in is that Pete Carroll is not worried about his career. Like when you have a Cliff Kingsbury or a Ben Johnson or a Todd Monken, these guys are going to be very, very careful in the moves that they make because they are, at the beginning of their head coaching career or trying to revitalize their career. They have a lot of years left to coach in the NFL, and they want to make sure that things don't go wrong. Whereas Pete Carroll is the perfect coach to bring in if you're going to do something like trade away your future draft capital to get a quarterback. because he ain't worried about it, man. Pete Carroll just signed the dotted line on a 3-year deal, and he knows it's going to be the last deal of his NFL career. So he doesn't care what happens, right? Which could be good and could be bad. I'm sure he wants to cement his legacy in helping revitalize the Raiders, right? Because that would be a beautiful story for him to end his career on. But if he goes ahead and trades away draft capital, things don't work out, the quarterback ends up being a bust, he's not gonna care. He's gonna go retire, right? And it is what it is. Sarah, what's good? Sam Darnold was on a flight to Las Vegas this past Monday. Interesting. I have not heard anything about that. Now, Sam Darnold, I think, would be a great bridge quarterback. I think that he's more of a bridge quarterback than Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson is looking to be that number one guy, and I'm sure Sam Darnold is as well. But Sam Darnold has a whole lot to prove. And let's say we did bring in Sam Darnold and then, drafted a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward, right? I don't think that Sam Darnold has a whole lot to stand on. He's got 1 year that he played well. So he'd still be on a prove-it deal. And if he plays well, keep him, right? If not, then move on. I think the Vikings are probably going to keep him, though, because J.J. McCarthy had a second knee surgery, and I think that he needs a little bit more time to heal. They needs a little bit more insurance, and they want to make sure that they're not left hanging when it comes to the quarterback. Anthony, what's good, bro? Yo, man, he got our head coach. I brought him up. We really need a proven winner, and that is exactly it. James Furpo talking about the Mr. Unlimited. Mr. Unlimited. Oh, man. That's crazy. The Julios. That's crazy, bro. It's the Julios time. Cool beard. Thanks, bro. Sarah, I'm a Viking fan. A Vikings fan reported that he was on a flight with Sam Darnold to Las Vegas. And honestly, free agency hasn't started. So there could be a possibility that he's flying out there for Raider stuff. But his season's over. Probably just going out there to have some fun, honestly. So right now, I think that it's going to be very clear on who is making decisions based on what happens, right? Because they said that Tom Brady is, he's been the mentor to Shedeur Sanders and all this stuff. So if Tom Brady truly, truly believes that Shedeur Sanders is that guy, we are going to trade up, right? We're going to do anything that we can to make sure that we get him. If the Raiders do not move up and Shedeur Sanders goes to another team, then it's going to be a clear indicator that Tom Brady does not believe that he's going to be that guy at the next level. And so I think that that's really something that I haven't really heard anybody talking about, but that's something that we really got to watch out for, is that if Tom Brady doesn't go through whatever he has to get Shedeur Sanders, it tells us everything we need to know. And that's why I believe that if we did trade up, which I don't really think that trading up to get Shedeur Sanders is a great idea. If we trade up, that's going to tell me that Tom Brady knows that Shedeur Sanders is going to translate to the next level and that he is worth it, because Tom Brady has such a good amount of insider information about Shedeur Sanders, and it's really not being talked about, man. I think that's crazy. Anthony, I wouldn't want him, but after getting him, you think Carroll can bring him back to his older self, Wilson? Oh, yeah, Wilson. I think Russell Wilson still has a lot in the tank. I think that Russell Wilson could take us to the playoffs, and I think that Russell Wilson would do what he did with the Steelers, is get us to the playoffs and then flop. I think that's really it. It might help get this team used to winning again, because let's face it, it's been a long time since the Raiders been winning, man. Shit, I almost dropped my coffee. That would have been messed up. Yeah, I'm on my lunch break, y'all, dude. I'm in my mother-in-law's driveway, getting on the Wi-Fi, trying to get some coffee, bro. It's Friday, dude. And man, I'm already tanked. Let's see, Sarah, I think you're better off with Darnold than Wilson. Darnold is only 27. Darnold is definitely the better option, but Pete Carroll was also part of, he was still there in Seattle when they got rid of Russell Wilson. So I don't know that he would really even want to go out there and get Russell Wilson and then pay him. Because really, Russell Wilson's not going to sign for anything less than a 2 or 3 year deal. And we could do what the Steelers did to him and bring him in. And then all of a sudden they brought in Justin Fields, and it's like, well, wait a minute, what? Now I'm competing for this job? That's crazy. James Furpo, but you can try to trade up, but it's not a guarantee, even if TB12 is high on Shador, especially if other teams think the same thing. Well, and that's part of the thing, right? Is that Deion Sanders has come out and said that there's a couple of teams that he would not want Shador to go to, right? And by saying couple, I think he means two. And because of that, he's probably saying the Titans and the Browns. So I don't think that the Titans and the Browns are going to go for him. Titans already came out and said that they are not going to pass up on a generational draft pick, right? And I don't know about the only, right? The one that really sticks out to me as the most generational draft pick this year is Travis Hunter, right? So I have a feeling that the Titans are going to go with Travis Hunter, which means that then there's the Browns and then there's the Giants, and we would probably have to get in there somewhere at 2 or 3 to be able to do it. I've heard rumors that the Giants are actually looking to get draft capital. But also there's rumors that say that the Giants want to trade for Derek Carr, which I think would be ridiculous. At this point, Derek Carr is worth like a 6th rounder or something. So there's a high possibility that the Giants would probably just go ahead and take Shador Sanders. So we'd probably have to get up to number 2. The Browns, Deshaun Watson re-tore his Achilles, and so they're in need of a quarterback. But they also might be comfortable just running it forward with Jameis Winston, and then, picking up best player available at number 6. You know what I'm saying? Anthony, people aren't going to like this. Had a good, decent year, but last 2 games, he for sure has a lot to prove. We trying to step forward, go deep in the playoffs, not step back. You talking about Russell Wilson? Because I know that there's fans out there saying, well, maybe Pete Carroll likes Aiden O'Connell, right? Maybe we're going to run it back with Aiden O'Connell. And when it comes down to, man, is that I don't think that that's going to be the case. I really, really don't, The only way I see that we run forward with Aiden O'Connell is if we drafted a Cam Ward or a Shador Sanders and that they didn't want to start him right away. Because basically, if you draft a quarterback, especially if you trade up for one, you're probably going to start him, right? And I know Tom Brady has come out and said that he doesn't like that. Deion Sanders says he doesn't like that. But when your options are Shador Sanders or Aiden O'Connell, Shador Sanders is definitely a better quarterback. Sarah, I think Pete is going to want a veteran QB. And I think that you're right about that, And so there's a lot of speculation on the table right now, and I think what it comes down to is, as a veteran QB, who could they get that kind of fits what Pete Carroll likes, that could be a bridge guy. Now, I saw another person that went out there. Navman in the building, what's good, bro? James, Spytek is going to trade for Baker for a vet. I mean, what it comes down to is that, there was some other speculation that I saw that maybe that Pete Carroll would want to go out there and draft Ashton Genty and then, sign somebody like a Justin Fields. Which if Russell Wilson stays with the Steelers, then Justin Fields is going to be available. And I like Justin Fields, but I don't know that his ceiling goes up much more. You know what I'm saying? 93 Navman, love the hire. I am stoked. Dude, I'm pretty excited myself, man. I was just talking about that. I believe that this is like the safety hire, right? Like this is the safe route to go, because there was a whole lot of question marks everywhere else, and we got a rookie GM. And honestly, I think Pete Carroll is going to help turn the franchise around and make it an attractive landing spot for future coordinators, for future coaches. And I think that he's going to get us going in the right direction. And I'm really, really hopeful about that right now, man, because um, we can't afford to keep doing this thing, man, that we've been bringing in these bust head coaches and then we get rid of them. And every couple of years we got another coach and another GM. And we need to actually establish some sort of longevity, right? And I know Pete Carroll can't be in the league for very long. He's only going to be around for a couple of years. I'd be surprised if he stayed here any longer than 3 years. And and I think that he knows his assignment, right? I think he knows his assignment. Pete Carroll has been around long enough to remember what the old Raiders were, and I think that he knows that his assignment is to bring the Raiders back to excellence. you know. James Furpo, best player available in draft, stay where we are, in my opinion. And I think that a lot of that's going to depend on if we can establish a quarterback in free agency. Because if we can get a good quarterback in free agency, right, whether it's a Justin Fields, a Sam Darnold, a Russell Wilson, then, if they really believe that Shedeur Sanders is a reach, and like I said, if Tom Brady knows that kid inside and out, if Tom Brady doesn't move heaven and earth to go get him, then we already know what it is, right? Um, Really, then we could really build in other areas, right? We need a running game. We could use at least one offensive lineman, at least one. We need a wide receiver. We got a whole lot of defensive players that are on contract years, and we got to re-sign, and we're not going to be able to re-sign everybody. So Marcus Epps probably isn't coming back. Nate Hobbs is only coming back if it's for the cheap because the dude is always hurt. Divine Diablo is probably gone. And we got to sign what? Malcolm Coons, Kayvon Chaison's probably going to want to get a little bit of money. Nothing too extreme, but he showed a lot of promise, right? And then, and then we still need a corner. Like, Jack Jones, I don't think is going to survive with Pete Carroll, man. I really do not think that Jack Jones is going to end up staying on the Raiders for very long. AP was always having to keep him in check, man. He's got behavior issues, and that's why he got cut from the Patriots, man. And I like Jack Jones, right? Sometimes he's a liability, and sometimes he makes big plays. He's boom or bust, kind of like Amik Robertson, right? But Amik went over there to the Lions, and all of a sudden was playing at a great, great level over there. And so I could see a world where Jack Jones gets his shit together, but if he does not, man, we need to replace him. And that's what it's going to be. Anthony, no hate for AP, but Pete Carroll isn't going to let his staff choose his starting quarterback. And that is the truth, man. That is exactly where AP went wrong. That is why AP is not our head coach anymore, is because all of a sudden, he wasn't so sure of himself. He didn't follow his gut. And I'm going to say it, man. AP pussed out, right? He totally pussed out, and he got overwhelmed because he ended up in a position that he wasn't qualified for. And I'm glad that the Raiders hired AP. I was happy with that when it happened, right? But AP, he didn't prove himself, man. He did not prove himself. Navman with the $10 bomb. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bringing an OG coach in means the relationships come with a Super Bowl winning coach. Jim Harbaugh now is the only AFC West coach to have not won a Super Bowl. Beast mode to the running back coach room. That would be crazy, man. That would be crazy. Can you imagine if we actually picked up Ashton Genty at number 6 and then Beast Mode was a running back coach and under Pete Carroll, man? That would be crazy, man. That would be absolutely crazy. And it's funny that the Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers both are the only ones without a Super Bowl ring in the AFC West, man. I love that. I absolutely love that, man. Thank you again for the super chat, bro, for real. And that's the thing, right? an OG coach brings his relationships, and the dude has relationships. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? And so I really feel strongly that he's going to put the right pieces in place. Um, I'm a little bit worried that Gus Bradley might end up back in the building, and I don't want to see that. I'm actually really hoping that we can get Patrick Graham back, right? But Pete Carroll, I mean, I think the Seahawks had the number one defense for like 4 years in a row or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, like, he's going to put the right people in place, man. I would be surprised if he ends up with some kind of Luke Getsy type hire and totally sinks. Oh, my God. I would be pissed, bro. I would be pissed. Shout out to you, Navman. Uh, M85, I didn't realize how accomplished Pete's son is. Over 20 years experience as a coach. Pete's son? I don't even know who Pete's son is, man. M85, let me know, man. I'm going to have to look that up. Sarah, I think Darnold would be good for you guys. He's shown that if you give him weapons, he can be good. You have pieces. You have the draft capital and salary cap to get him pieces. So, Sarah, you said that you're a Vikings fan. How come you want to get rid of Darnold, right? Because the way that I see it is that Sam Darnold, he's expecting to get paid, right? But if I were the Vikings, I'd be looking at keeping Sam Darnold and playing him for another year. Sit J.J. McCarthy for one more season, maybe even two, kind of like Jordan Love, and really see what you can get out of Darnold. Because if Darnold turns into that guy and takes you guys to a Super Bowl, then it's like J.J. McCarthy who, man? You know, not even worried about it. Because really the goal is not to start a particular guy. It's to get the guy that's going to get the job done, right? And so if I were the Vikings, I'd be looking to keep Sam Darnold for at least 2 more years. And then if, you know, he starts halfway through the season next year, he starts not looking so good, bring in J.J. McCarthy and sit Sam Darnold as a backup. I don't think that he's earned quite the huge payday yet. Let's see, Sarah, Darnold had a better year than Herbert. I think that Herbert's overrated. He's a good quarterback, right? But there's something missing with him, and I don't know what it is, but he's always, the mainstream media is like, oh, Justin Herbert, but he's not him, man. James Firpo, beast mode won't work with Carroll. No? Do they have a bad relationship or something? Let's see, Anthony, dude, Ashton Genty has been my guy. I'm really high on him. And, like, that's kind of a luxury pick, right? To bring in a running back at number 6. But if we bring in the proper veteran quarterback in free agency, then we could afford to do something like that. Our offensive line does need some work, but it got a lot better as the season went along. And you guys have probably heard it from me, you know, way too many times, but, you know, our whole from center to left is great. Get rid of Andre James. Dylan Parham is kind of a liability. And I don't know, because he did better last year than he did this year. And I'm wondering if it's a coaching issue or if it's that Andre James makes him look bad because Andre James always gets beat. I'm not really sure. And I think DJ Glaze was a great draft, and I think that he's going to continue to progress. Navman, 6 years, number 1 overall defense in Seattle. See? I mean, so really what it comes down to, man, is Pete Carroll's going to make decisions that we can trust, and I'm all about that. Let's see. Sarah, because we drafted a top 10 QB, we're not wasting a rookie contract by having JJ sit for 3-4 years. Then we have to decide whether to pay him. And I know that they did that with Jordan Love there in Green Bay, and it worked out. And I don't know that they would sit him for 3 to 4, but I could see them sitting him for another year because he had that second knee surgery, and they want to make sure that he's healthy before they throw him out there. James Firpo, yeah, the Super Bowl loss, he laughed in Carroll's face after because Carroll wanted Mr. Unlimited Super Bowl MVP, not Lynch. Yeah, they should have ran it, bro. They should have ran it. Sarah, JJ is the highest drafted QB in our history, so there's no way they're going to sit him for 3 or 4. And I see that. I could see that. And yeah, Navman, you got a great question about his durability. And that's why I think that they're going to sit him for a second year, because they want to make sure that he's very healthy when he ends up going out there. And I think that, Sam Darnold is a great bridge guy, and he's already in the building. JJ didn't have a second surgery. I don't know, Sarah. That's what I saw, is that because he had the first surgery, and then just I want to say it was about a month ago. Um, I saw a report that that he kind of re-injured himself during practice, and that they decided to go in and do a second surgery. Oh, he had an injection. Maybe they gave him PRP, man. I hope that that's what they're doing, because PRP, platelet-rich plasma, that's what saved my back. I had a horrible, horrible back injury, man, and that stuff really saved my back. But you guys, I got to get going. I got to get back to work. Thank you guys for rocking with me today. Navman, it's good to see you again. Like always, I love you, nation. I'll see you on the next one.